Hello dear students, myself CMA Padmaja Buzruk. I will be discussing the topic underwriting of shares and debentures. Underwriting is an agreement with or without conditions to subscribe to the securities of a body corporate when existing shareholders of the corporate or the public do not subscribe to the securities offered to them. If company has offered its securities, that is shares or debentures, to existing shareholder or to the general public, and if they have not taken up the offer fully, then these shares are taken over by underwriters. Underwriters are share brokers who get commission for underwriting the shares. If company offers public to subscribe for its shares and if the issue is undersubscribed, then in that case underwriters come into picture. The shares which have not been taken over by the public, it is the responsibility of underwriters to purchase these shares for which they get commission from the company. When a company goes in for an initial public offer IPO, it may face certain uncertainty about whether its offer of shares or other securities will be subscribed in full or not. If the public issue does not get fully subscribed, the project for which the funds are being raised cannot be implemented. In case of IPO, initial public offer, company is new. So in that case, it will be difficult many times for the company to get its shares and debentures subscribed in full. And in this case, what will happen if the public issue does not get fully subscribed? If people do not purchase the entire issue, then the project for which the funds are being raised cannot be implemented. Company cannot start the project for which it has asked public to subscribe for the shares. As per law, it is required that if the company is not able to collect 90% of the offer amount, then it needs to compulsorily return the money to those who have subscribed to the shares. It is necessary for the company to get maximum number of subscriptions, otherwise it is compulsory by law to refund the amount to the applicants if it has collected lesser than 90% of the offer amount. To avoid the risk of undersubscription, companies may seek the help of a specialized group of risk redeemers called underwriters. The function of the underwriter is to arrange subscription of floated shares. The duty of the underwriters is to purchase the shares which are not subscribed for by the public. If the whole or a certain portion of shares or debentures of the company are not applied for by the public, the underwriters themselves apply or persuade others to apply for those shares or debentures. The underwriters, as risk takers, are entitled to get commission at prescribed rates. So, for taking this risk, underwriters get commission. It should be noted that as per latest SEBI guidelines, underwriting is not mandatory, that is, underwriting is not compulsory. Under the SEBI rules, no person other than a share broker or merchant banker can act as underwriter unless he holds a certificate granted by SEBI. So, in short, it is Only share broker or merchant banker can act as underwriter, and he should hold a certificate which is granted by SEBI. Regarding underwriting, the following disclosures should be made in the offer document. Offer document is nothing but prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus. It is necessary that following facts should be disclosed in the offer document. Name and address of the underwriters and the amount underwritten by them. Declaration by Board of Directors of the issuer company that the underwriters have sufficient resources to discharge their respective obligations. It is necessary that Board of Directors should make a declaration that underwriters have sufficient monetary resources, sufficient money to discharge their respective obligations, that is, to pay for the shares which are not subscribed for by the public. Underwriting commission. It may be paid in cash or in fully paid up shares or debentures or combination of all this. Commission can be in cash, it can be in shares, it can be in debentures or combination of all these. It is paid on the issue price of the shares or debentures so underwritten. So mostly commission is payable on the issue price. If face value of the shares is 10, share premium is 2 and issue price of share is rupees 12, then underwriters get commission on rupees 12, that is issue price. As per the provisions of section 40 of the Companies Act 2013, commission is payable if the following conditions are satisfied. The following conditions should be satisfied for payment of commission to underwriters. First, the payment of commission is authorized by articles. Second, the commission paid or agreed to be paid does not exceed, in case of shares, 5% of the price at which the shares are issued or the amount or rate authorized by articles, whichever is less. Commission paid to underwriters on shares should not exceed 5% of issue price of shares or any amount or rate authorized by articles, whichever is less. And in case of debentures, 2.5% of price at which the debentures are issued or the amount or rate authorized by articles, whichever is less. In case of debentures, commission paid or agreed to be paid to underwriters should not exceed 2.5% of issue price or amount or rate which is authorized by articles, whichever is less. The amount or rate percent of commission paid or agreed to be paid is, in the case of shares or debentures offered to the public for subscription, disclosed in the prospectus, and in case of shares or debentures not offered to the public for subscription, disclosed in the statement in lieu of prospectus, or in statement in prescribed form signed in like manner as statement in lieu of prospectus and filed in before payment of commission with registrar, and where a circular or notice not being a prospectus inviting subscription for the shares or debentures is issued, also disclosed in that circular or notice. So in short, the amount or rate percent of commission paid or agreed to be paid to the underwriters should be disclosed in prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus. And supposing if the shares or debentures are offered by a circular or notice, then it should be disclosed in that circular or notice, and it is to be filed with the registrar. Fourth, the number of shares or debentures which a person have agreed for a commission to subscribe absolutely or conditionally is disclosed in the manner aforesaid. Number of shares or debenture which a person have agreed for commission, that means the underwriter who has agreed for number of shares or debentures to subscribe absolutely or conditionally. Why? Because he will be getting commission for that. It is also should be disclosed in the aforesaid manner, that is, it should be disclosed in prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus, and it should be filed with the registrar. A copy of the contract for payment of commission is delivered to the registrar at the time of delivery of prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus for registration. In this regard, the following points are to be noted. No underwriting commission is payable on the shares taken up by promoters, employees, directors, business associates, etc. If any of the shares are taken up by promoters, employees, directors, business associates, etc., on that shares, underwriting commission is not payable. Commission is payable on the whole issue underwritten, irrespective of the fact that whole of the issue may be taken over by the public. Underwriters get commission on the whole issue and not only on the shares which are taken over by them because it has not been subscribed for by the public. They are entitled to get commission on the whole issue. This is very, very important. Underwriting commission, however, as per guidelines issued by the Stock Exchange Division of the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, wide their reference number F-14/1/SC/85 dated 7th May 1985, the following rates for payment of underwriting commission are in force. On amount devolving on underwriters percent, on amounts subscribed by the public percent. Equity shares 2.5 to, that is 2.5% and 2%. Preference shares, convertible and non-convertible debentures for amount up to 5 lakhs 2.5%, 1.5% for amount in excess of 5 lakhs 2% and 1%. The rate of underwriting of commission mentioned above are maximum ceiling rates within which any company will be free to negotiate the same with the underwriters. Underwriting commission will not be payable on amounts taken up by the promoters group, employees, directors, their friends, and business associates. The company, while fixing the underwriting commission, should ensure that the commission is within the limits specified by the central government as stated in the above table. Now, on amount devolving on the underwriters, that means the shares which are not taken up by the public, underwriters will take those shares and this percentage is on that. On amount subscribed by the public, that means the shares which are taken over by the public, which are subscribed by the public, on that underwriters will get commission. That percentage is given in the last column. Sub underwriters, in order to spread the risk of under subscription, the principal underwriters may enter into subsidiary agreement with sub underwriters. Such agreements are made between the underwriters alone, with the company not being a party thereto. That means this agreement with sub-underwriters is between principal underwriter and sub-underwriters, and company will not come into picture. As per agreement, the company pays commission to the at the prescribed rate to the principal underwriter, who in turn disburse commission to the sub-underwriters. Company gives commission only to the head, that is principal underwriter, and principal underwriter he appoints sub-underwriter and he disburses commission to sub-underwriters. Sometimes an additional commission is paid to the principal underwriters to encourage sub-underwriting. This is known as overriding commission. The payment of an overriding commission enables the company to deal with one or two underwriters instead of number of them. If the risk is more, then company will give additional commission to principal underwriters to encourage him for sub underwriting. So this what will happen because of this? Company deals with only few underwriters, one or two underwriters. Instead of lot of underwriters, company deals only with principal underwriters, and it is the responsibility of principal underwriters to pay commission to sub underwriters. Underwriting agreement. There are two types of underwriting agreement. First one is conditional and second one is form. Conditional underwriting. Under this type of agreement, the underwriter agrees to take up agreed proportion of shares not taken up by the public. If the shares are fully subscribed by the public, the underwriter does not take up any share. Underwriter will underwrite the shares as per conditional underwriting on the condition that if shares are not subscribed by the public, then the underwriters will purchase the shares which are not taken up by the public. If all the shares are subscribed, that is purchased by public, then underwriter does not take any share, but underwriters will be getting commission on the whole issue. Form underwriting. Under this type of agreement, the underwriter agrees to take up a specified number of shares irrespective of number of shares subscribed for by the public. It is a firm commitment by an underwriter to take up specified number of shares irrespective of number of shares subscribed by the public. Whatever may be shares taken over or subscribed by public, underwriters will take firm commitment. Definitely, surely they will purchase certain number of shares irrespective of number of shares taken over by public. These are known as firm underwriting. Firm underwriting. First one, when credit or benefit of firm underwriting is given to underwriters. Then firm underwriting shall be deducted from gross liability along with marked applications and unmarked applications, and after determining the liability on account of underwriting, the firm applications are added. In case of firm underwriting, in the question, you might get this at the end of the question: benefit or credit of firm underwriting is given to underwriters. Then what is to be done is given here. See, mostly nothing will be mentioned in the questions. In that case, we'll assume that credit or benefit for firm underwriting is given to underwriters, and you will solve the questions in the same manner. Whatever I have given here, we'll see this. Supposing if there are three underwriters A, B and C, first you are supposed to write gross liability of underwriters, deduct unmarked applications in the ratio of gross liability, that is this ratio. then deduct marked applications, then deduct form underwriting, then you will get underwriter's liability. Gross liability minus unmarked applications minus marked applications minus form underwriting, you will get underwriter's liability. In that again add form underwriting, you will get underwriter's total liability. This is how the statement is normally to be prepared, whatever is given in the question or not. If specifically nothing is mentioned, and if it is given that credit or benefit of form underwriting is given to underwriters, then of course it is to be done in the same manner. Now, what is the meaning of unmarked application, marked application? That we'll see in next few slides. Form underwriting we have already seen. Specific, form, definite number of shares. The underwriter purchases from the company irrespective of number of shares taken over by the public, that is known as form underwriting. In case of form underwriting, if it is given that when benefit or credit for form underwriting is not given to underwriters, then form underwriting shall be added to unmarked applications and shall be deducted from the gross liability along with marked applications. So in this case, see in the earlier statement, what have we done? From gross liability, we deducted unmarked application, marked application, form underwriting, we got underwriter's liability. Then again we added form underwriting, we got underwriter's total liability. When credit or benefit for form underwriting is given to underwriters, if it is given or if nothing is mentioned, this is to be done. But if it is specifically mentioned that when credit or benefit for form underwriting is not given to underwriters, then form underwriting should be added to unmarked applications. Then what are you supposed to do? Gross liability minus marked applications minus unmarked plus form. Add both and distribute it in the ratio of gross liability, deduct it, you will get underwriter's liability. Then again add form underwriting, you will get underwriter's total liability. This is done if and only if this specific mention of second point is given, that is when credit or benefit for form underwriting is not given to underwriters. Otherwise, this is not to be used. Now we'll see what is the meaning of marked and unmarked applications. Marked applications are those applications which bear the stamp of an underwriter. If the issue is not fully subscribed, marked applications shall be applied in reduction of underwriter's liability. So in short, marked applications are those applications on which underwriter's stamp, underwriter's name is mentioned. Unmarked applications are those applications which bear no stamp of an underwriter. These applications are received by the company directly from the public. The distinction between marked and unmarked application becomes immaterial when the whole issue is subscribed by only one underwriter. When there are more than one underwriter, the unmarked applications are divided among underwriters in the ratio of their gross liability. So if there is only one underwriter, you don't have to bother about marked and unmarked applications because it is the liability of responsibility of only one underwriter. But if there are more than one underwriters, then unmarked applications are to be distributed among underwriters in the ratio of their gross liability. When the issue is fully subscribed, the distinction between marked and unmarked application becomes immaterial because when the issue is fully subscribed, in that case, underwriters need not purchase any shares. So the distinction between marked and unmarked application becomes really immaterial. They will be getting commission on the gross liability. full and partial underwriting. When the whole issue is underwritten by underwriters, it is called full underwriting. When a part, say 75% of the whole issue is underwritten by underwriters, it is called partial underwriting. In this case, the company is treated as having underwritten the balance of the shares. Now we'll see how to pass journal entries for underwriting commission. For commission or brokerage due, commission or brokerage account debit to underwriter or to broker, and for payment of commission, underwriter account debit or broker account debit to bank if paid by check, to share capital if shares are issued, to debenture if debentures are issued for commission. Liability of underwriters. Determination of liability in respect of underwriting contract. When the issue is fully underwritten without firm underwriting. Full issue is underwritten by underwriters, but there is no firm underwriting. If the entire issue has been underwritten by one underwriter, the determination of his liability is very simple. The total number of applications, both marked and unmarked, are deducted from the number of shares underwritten, and the resultant figure is treated as liability of underwriter. For example, X Limited issued 1 lakh equity shares of rupees 10 each. The issue was fully underwritten by A. However, the company received applications for 80,000 shares, which include marked application for 60,000 shares. Total number of applications received by the company are 80,000. Out of that, 60,000 applications are marked applications. That means 80 minus 60, 20,000 are unmarked applications. Only one underwriter is there. Here, A's liability will be 1 lakh issued capital minus 60,000, that is marked applications, minus 20,000, that is unmarked application, is equal to 20,000. So in short, issued capital is 1 lakh. Company has received 80,000 applications. So 1 lakh minus 80,000, 20,000 is underwriter's liability. A would get full credit for unmarked 20,000 applications. So A is supposed to purchase these 20,000 shares which are not taken over by the public. Determination of liability in respect of underwriting contract. If the entire issue has been underwritten by a number of underwriters, certain difficulties may arise in respect of division of unmarked applications. Unmarked applications are those applications which do not bear the stamp of underwriter. The unmarked applications can be divided between the underwriters in two ways, which is explained as method 1 and method 2. First we'll see method 1. Under this method, all unmarked applications are divided between the underwriters in the ratio of gross liability of individual underwriter. Unmarked applications are divided in which ratio? Ratio of gross liability. For determining the liability of individual underwriter, the following steps are followed. First step, compute gross liability if it has not been given. If gross liability is given, then use it. If it is not given, then calculate gross liability. On the basis of agreed ratio, for example, X Limited issued 1 lakh equity shares of 10 each. The issue was underwritten as A 30%, B 40%, C 30%. Here the gross liability will be A 30% of 1 lakh. Total issue is 1 lakh. A has underwritten 30%, 30,000 shares. B 40% of 1 lakh, 40,000 shares. C 30% of 1 lakh, 30,000 shares. 30,000 plus 40,000, 70,000 plus 30,000 is 1 lakh. That is how they have taken the responsibility. A has taken up responsibility of 30,000 shares, B has taken up responsibility of 40,000 shares, and C has taken up responsibility of 30,000 shares out of the entire issue of 1 lakh shares. Now, their gross liability ratio is 30%, 40%, 30%, that is 3 is to 4 is to 3. Subtract mark applications from gross liability of respective underwriters. Marked applications will be given. That is, supposing if there are 3 underwriters A, B, and C, some of the applications are stamped bear A's stamp, some of the application bear B's stamp, some of the application bear C's stamp. These are marked applications. Subtract it from the gross liability. Step 3, determine the number of unmarked applications. Unmarked applications is equal to total applications received less marked applications. Divide unmarked applications between different underwriters in the ratio of gross liability. As per our example, in the ratio of 3 is to 4 is to 3. If the resultant figures are all positive or 0, then stop here. Now these figures represent the net liability of each underwriter. If some of the resultant figures are negative, then continue to step 4. Step 4. Add all negative figures and divide the resultant between the underwriters having positive figures in the ratio of gross liability. Repeat step 5 unless all figures are non-negative. Now these figures represent the net liability of each underwriter. As per first method, see here they have given you to deduct marked applications from gross liability, but there is no hard and fast rule. You can write gross liability below each and every underwriter. Gross liability, from that first you can deduct unmarked applications, then you can deduct marked applications. But if firm underwriting is there, then deduct firm and applications. Again at the end you are supposed to add firm underwriting. But after each and every step, that is whenever you are deducting unmarked applications, marked application, firm underwriting, check whether all resulting figures are positive or 0. If they are positive or 0, that is your final answer. If any of the figure is negative, then add all these negative and distribute this negative among the positive in the ratio of gross liability and continue till you get all non-negative figures or 0. Method 2. Under this method, all unmarked applications are divided between the underwriters in the ratio of gross liability less marked application. So as per second method, what is done from gross liability? First you are supposed to deduct marked applications and whatever resulting figure you get, find out ratio of that, and in that ratio deduct unmarked applications. For determining the liability of individual underwriter, following steps are followed. Compute gross liability in the usual manner. We have seen in the first method how it is to be calculated. Subtract marked application from gross liability of respective underwriter. If some of the resultant figure are negative, then add all negative figure and divide their sum in the ratio of gross liability. Step 3. Determine the number of unmarked applications. Divide unmarked application between different underwriters in the ratio of gross liability less marked applications. So unmarked applications are to be distributed in the ratio gross liability less marked applications, that is the resultant figure of step 2. If the resultant figure of step 3 are all positive or 0, then stop here. Now these figures represent the net liability of each underwriter. If some of the resultant figures are negative, then continue to step 4. Add all negative figures and divide their sum between the underwriters having positive figures in the same ratio of step 3. Repeat step 4 unless all figures are non-negative. Now these figures represent the net liability, that is net liability of underwriters. Mostly first method is to be used. Second method is not very common. So I want all of you to just remember first method. We'll solve all the questions by first method. Now I will just summarize whatever we have seen in this particular video. Theory of underwriting of shares and debentures. Underwriting of shares and debentures we have seen. Then what is the meaning of underwriting commission? What type of commission they get? In what form they get? Sub-underwriters. What is the meaning of sub-underwriters? Underwriting agreement. Two types of agreement, conditional underwriting and firm underwriting. Then we have seen the meaning of marked applications and unmarked applications. Then we have seen what is the meaning of full underwriting and partial underwriting. And at the end, we have seen how to calculate liability of underwriters by two different methods. First method normally we use. Thank you.